My child, nobody ever told you that you passed. That is the only reason you are still standing outside a room you already hold the key to. So stop for a moment, and do not scroll past this, because I am going to do something tonight that no one has done for you. I am going to read you your results. There was a morning, not the night everything broke, not the hour the disaster hit, but the morning after it. You woke up inside a body that did not want to move, and you did something completely ordinary. You made the coffee. You washed the one cup. You answered a message kindly when you had every right not to. You did the small, decent thing when no part of you felt like it, and you did not announce it. You did not write it down. You did not even notice it. By that evening, you had already forgotten the whole day happened, and it went into your memory as nothing, as an ordinary Tuesday. Hear me, because this changes everything. That was the test, not the disaster, the morning after the disaster. And by the time these words are finished, you are going to understand why you spent years waiting for a result that had already been recorded and sealed. So stay with me until the end. Let me tell you the thing no one measures correctly, because you have been grading yourself on the wrong exam your whole life. Thousands of people arrive at that exact morning, in that exact body, with that exact weight sitting on their chest, and they do not do what you did. They stay down. They send the cruel message back. They let the small, decent thing go undone. And honestly, no one would blame them, because the weight was real. But you got up. You did the quiet, unremarkable, decent thing when there was not one human being alive who would have known if you had not. You did not merely pass, my child. You passed so quietly that you filed the victory as an ordinary day, and then you went out looking for the real one. That is why you have been standing outside a room you already unlocked. If your spirit knows the morning I am describing, the one nobody clapped for, type, it counted. Let me describe your situation back to you, and you can tell me whether I am close. You have been functioning, that is the word. Not thriving, not collapsing, functioning. If someone asked, you would say things are fine, and it would not even be a lie. And yet there is a low, quiet static underneath the whole arrangement that never fully clears. Here is the first sign you achieve something, a real thing, something that would have thrilled you years ago, and you feel almost nothing. A flat calm where the celebration should be. You wait for the feeling to arrive the way you wait for a delivery that keeps getting delayed, and eventually you stop waiting and move on to the next thing. Here is the second. You brace before good news. Someone begins a sentence with, I have something to tell you, and your whole body prepares for impact before a single detail arrives, because you have trained yourself to survive an announcement. The third, you over-prepare for a repeat of something that has already finished. The season ended, and still some part of you keeps the emergency bag packed by the door, keeps a small permanent budget of dread set aside for a bill that already got paid. And the fourth, you feel older than the people your age, not in your body, but in something behind your eyes. You sit in ordinary conversations and feel like a person who has come back from somewhere and cannot quite mention it. You are not superior to them. You are just further along a road nobody would choose. You have wondered for years what is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you, my child. Something is unread, that is all. Not unhealed, not defective, unread. And that quiet flatness you have carried, that sense that the color drained out of things, is not evidence that you failed. It is evidence of what the season cost. A person does not walk next to something that heavy and come away untouched. And the numbness you have judged yourself for was never a sin. It was a survival setting, a way your spirit turned the volume down so you could keep functioning while you carried what you carried. You did not go cold because your heart is bad. You went quiet because your heart was protecting itself. And there is a difference. And I have never once confused the two, even on the days you did. So thousands arrive at the same morning and stay down. And you got up, and you did it while carrying all of that. If you pass not loudly, but in the silence where no one was watching, type, I passed in the quiet. Now let me hand you something you can check for yourself right now, so you know this is not comfort with nothing inside it. Think of one specific kind of blow, a betrayal, a loss, a door closing in your face while you were still speaking. Choose the category, not the whole story. Now remember how long that kind of blow took you to recover from years ago. Weeks, probably, maybe an entire season. You can still name the months you lost to it. Now remember the last time something from that same category came for you. It hurt. Of course it hurt. And I am not asking you to pretend otherwise. But how long was it this time before you ate a real meal? Before you called someone back? Before you opened a window or laughed at something or got out of the house? It was shorter. It was measurably shorter. And you never once counted it. That number, my child, is the test. Character is not measured at the peak of a crisis, because at the peak everyone performs. It is measured by how long it takes a person to come back, and yours has been shrinking for years while you were busy calling yourself fragile. If you can see that the second blow healed faster than the first type, I recovered faster. And I want to be honest with you here, because you deserve honesty more than you deserve flattery. Some part of you has already raised an objection, and I would rather take it seriously than talk over it. The objection sounds like this. This is just a nice way of feeling better about not getting what I wanted. This is positive thinking with older words. Somebody has taken my failure and renamed it a pass, and renaming a thing does not change it. That is a fair objection, and it deserves a real answer, not a soft one. So here is the difference, and it is a difference of direction. Positive thinking asks you to assert something about the future that has not happened yet. Say the door is opening, say it enough, and it becomes true. Make a claim with no evidence and defend it with enthusiasm. And I understand exactly why you are tired of that. What I am doing is the opposite in every direction. I am not asking you to claim anything about your future. I am asking you to measure something that has already happened, using data you already hold and I have no access to. I cannot see your recovery interval. You can. If you compared those 2 seasons a moment ago and the second one was not faster, then this does not apply to you, and no amount of enthusiasm will make it apply. That is what separates a measurement from a mantra. A measurement can come back negative. A mantra cannot. Everything I am handing you tonight is something you can check against your own memory and reject if it does not fit. Which is exactly why I am willing to say it to a person as tired as you are. And notice what that gives back to you, because it is a kind of freedom you have not had in years. If your recovery interval is the measurement, then it is something you can read yourself, at any time for free without a single other person confirming it. You do not need a prophet, a leader, a partner, or a public result to tell you where you stand. You need 2 dates and an honest memory. That is what returning agency looks like. And it does not feel like a feeling. It feels like an instrument you can pick up on your own. For years you have handed the verdict on your life to other people, waiting for someone with authority to tell you whether you were doing well, and no one ever did. So you assumed the answer was no. But the answer was never theirs to give. It was written in the shrinking interval between the blow and your return, and that record has been yours to read the whole time. So the next time the accusing voice says you are failing your life, do not argue with it in the dark. Go get the 2 dates, compare the 2 seasons. Let the evidence answer, and the evidence has already answered. And let me say the emotional thing plainly, rather than leaving it buried under the explanation. What was done to you was not fair. I am not going to spiritualize that away. Some of what you carried should never have been handed to a person, and certainly not to you. At the age you were when it arrived, it is legitimate to be tired. It is legitimate to have wanted an easier assignment. You handled it anyway. Not perfectly, because no one handles it perfectly, and the standard was never perfection. You handled it the way a person handles something too heavy, which is badly for a while, and then steadily. And the steadily part is the part you have refused to credit yourself for, because it did not feel like courage. It felt like getting through. But getting through, on the mornings when there was no reason to, and no witness to see it, is the entire exam. You have been waiting for someone to tell you that you did well, so let me be the one. You did well, not flawlessly. Well, and I saw all of it, including the parts you are ashamed. No one else saw. Here is the part that hurts and heals in the same breath. The reward for passing is never an event. It is a capacity, and capacities are silent. So you kept waiting for a phone call, a door, a sign, an announcement, while the actual prize was being installed in the one place you are unable to look at directly, inside you. Think about what a capacity really is. It is not a feeling, it is not confidence. It is the ability to do a thing you previously could not do, and the moment a capacity exists inside you, it stops feeling remarkable and starts feeling normal. Ability is invisible to the person holding it. No one walks around amazed that they can read, so when that season ended and no phone rang, you looked for an event and found none, and your mind, a very good instrument used on the wrong task, drew the only conclusion available to it. If there was no prize, there must have been no pass. But the prize was already in your hands. You simply could not see it, because you were looking for it in the wrong shape. Before I take you deeper into your results, let me tell you how this reading even reached you tonight, because it matters. You did not pay anything to receive it. It came to you freely, likely on a night the old verdict was sitting heavy on you, whispering that you had somehow missed your moment. And it came freely because someone who once believed they had failed everything, who then finally heard that their quiet, unwitnessed faithfulness had been seen, found such relief in being told the result that they chose to sow a seed, so the next weary soul would hear it too. Tonight, you are that soul. Someone you will never meet made a way for these words to reach you before you gave up on yourself entirely. So tonight you owe nothing, and you simply receive. And if there ever comes a season when your own weight has lifted and I lead you to, you may choose to become that for the next tired heart certain they failed, sowing a seed of any amount so this reading keeps reaching the ones grating themselves against the storm. The link is there for whenever you are ready, and never as a price for a single thing I am speaking over you tonight. Now let me deny the cause you have assigned to your own failure, because you have been wrong about it for years. You decided you failed because of something in you, because your faith went thin in the 3rd month, because you went quiet with me for a stretch and did not pray for weeks and assumed the silence disqualified you, because you were not the kind of person who handles things beautifully. That is not what happened, and I am not saying so to spare your feelings. I am saying it because it is simply, structurally wrong. Every one of those things is a description of what a human being does under sustained pressure. If thin faith in the 3rd month disqualified people, the record of the faithful would be empty. Every man and woman I have ever remembered for their trust said out loud, at some point, that they could not take one more day. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life. That is from James chapter 1 verse 12. Read the words carefully, having stood the test, not having felt strong during it, not having enjoyed it, having stood, which is exactly what you did, badly for a while, and then steadily. And the steadily part is the part you have refused to give yourself any credit for, because it did not feel like heroism. It felt like Tuesday. Let me give you someone to stand next to, because a truth you cannot watch inside a human life stays theoretical. Everyone tells the story of Joseph by its ending, the palace, the ring, the brothers on their knees, but the ending is not where the test was. The test was in the prison, on the morning after the cupbearer forgot him. He had interpreted a dream correctly. He had asked one thing, "Remember me when it goes well for you," and the man walked out into his restored life and forgot Joseph completely. Not delayed, forgot. And Joseph found out the way you find out slowly, by a door that does not open across a long series of ordinary mornings. For 2 more years. And what does the record say he did in those 2 years? The warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison. And whatever was done there, he was responsible for it, because I was with him. That is close to what is written in Genesis, chapter 39, verses 22 and 23. Understand what that means. On the morning after the forgetting, with no reason left to believe anything was ever coming, this man got up and administered a prison well. He did the small, competent, decent thing in a place that would never report it. No one clapped. There was no visit, no vindication, no announcement, and no way for him to know the whole thing had already turned. He was not waiting well because he held a promise in his hand. He had already watched a promise fail to arrive on schedule. He got up anyway. That is the exam, and it has been happening in your life in a form so unglamorous You never recognized it as the same event. Let me tell you about another life closer to your own century, so you can see how the prize hides itself. There was a woman who spent 4 years caring for a parent who no longer knew who she was. 4 years of a relationship with no return signal. Feeding someone who could not thank her, in a house that grew quieter every month. And when the parent finally died, here is the part she was ashamed of, which is the part that is actually the whole point. In the first week after the funeral, she felt nothing but relief, and she hated herself for it. Then, about a month later, she noticed something. She had been going across the street every few days to check on an old man who lived alone, with no family nearby. She had not decided to do it. She had simply carried on being the person those 4 years had made her, pointed now at the next human being who needed it. She thought she had wasted 4 years. What actually happened is that 4 years had built a capacity in her, and the capacity began spending itself the very moment it was free. No one gave her a certificate. The old man never knew what he was receiving, and if you had asked her that month how her faith was going, she would have said she felt distant from me and was not sure she believed anything anymore. She could not see the stamp either. Almost no one can see their own. And let me speak now to the part of you that has actually done the work, because I have real affection for that part. You have tried everything. You have read the books, some of them twice. You have done the fasting and the journaling and the early mornings. You have stood with your hands open more than once, and you have had genuine encounters, and you have had months where you felt nothing at all. And now there is a specific fatigue in you that people who never tried do not carry. It is not skepticism, because skepticism is cheap. Yours is the exhaustion of someone who has been sincere repeatedly and watched sincerity not be enough, and has quietly begun to suspect that the problem must therefore be you. So let me say the thing you need said. The reason none of it fully worked is not that you did it badly. It is that almost every one of those tools was built to help a person get through the ordeal. They are endurance tools, equipment for the middle of the storm, and they are good, and they did their job, and you are not in the middle of the storm anymore. You have been out of it for a while, still using storm equipment, which is exactly why it feels like nothing fits. You do not need more endurance. You are one of the most enduring people in your whole family line, and everyone around you knows it, which is precisely why they keep handing you things. What you have needed is not another way to survive. It is permission to notice that you already did. I know how easily a reading like this can fade by morning, so if something in your spirit is coming alive as you hear these words, do not let this be the last time my voice reaches you here. Subscribe and turn on the reminder, not out of pressure, but so that when I speak the next word over the results of your life, it finds you in the exact hour you need it. I am not finished reading your paper to you, and I do not want you to miss what comes next. Now let me hand you the actual grading, the 4 things that were being measured while you were certain nothing was being measured at all. And hear this first. Not one of them measures how much you prayed, how strong you felt, or whether you said the right things in front of the right people. The first thing measured was whether you stayed kind when there was nothing in it for you. Not kind to people who could help you, not kind in public, kind to the person who could not return it, would not remember it, and had nothing to offer you in any direction. The stranger who got the last of your patience on the worst day of your year. Go and look, and you will find dozens of them fast, precisely because you never spent them for a return and never filed them anywhere. Every one of those was a mark on your page. The second thing measured was whether you kept a promise made only to yourself. This is the one people fail most, because a promise to another person is enforced by shame and reputation. But a promise made to yourself alone in your own kitchen has no enforcement of any kind. No one finds out. And there was a thing you told yourself you would do in that season, and it was small, and it was probably ridiculous. And you did it anyway on the days when there was no reason to. The walk, the page, the call you made every week when no one would have known if you skipped it. That is a person building a self that can be relied upon. If you kept even one promise no one ever saw you keep, type, I kept the promise no one saw. The third thing measured was whether you stopped retaliating, and hear me carefully because this one gets taught badly. This is not about whether you forgave in your heart. That is between you and me, and it takes as long as it takes. This is about your hands, whether you took the shot when it was available to you, simply because it was available. There was a moment when you knew exactly what to say to cut that person open. You had the information. You knew the sentence. You had every justification a human being could want, and you did not say it. You went home and closed the door and sat with it instead. And you called that weakness, and you have replayed it for years, wishing you had been braver. That was not weakness. That was the hardest mark on the entire page. Anyone can fail to retaliate when they have no weapon. You had the weapon in your hand, and you set it down unwitnessed and told no one. If you laid a weapon down that you had every right to use, type, "I set the weapon down." And the fourth thing measured was whether you continued after the motivation was gone. In the first weeks of any ordeal, there is a strange fuel available. People check on you. The story has a shape. Then the 7th month arrives. The messages stop. Everyone has gone back to their own lives, and there is no end date, and no audience, and no feeling left. And you kept going, not gloriously, slowly, badly, resentfully, with long stretches of doing the bare minimum. And you kept going. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. That is from Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9. That fourth mark is the one I weigh most heavily, because it is the only one that cannot be produced by emotion. If you kept moving after every feeling had drained away, type, "I kept going after the feeling left." Let me pause once more plainly, as the ministry that carries these words to you. Everything you have received tonight reached you because someone before you made a way, someone who spent years certain they had failed, until they finally heard their results read out loud, and out of sheer relief chose to make it possible for the next graded soul to hear theirs. Somewhere tonight there is another chosen one, sitting in silence, marking their own paper with a red pen no one ever gave them, aching for exactly the reading you are receiving. If I ever lead you, you can be the reason it reaches them, sowing a seed of any amount so this word keeps traveling to the ones who passed and were never told. You would simply be passing forward what was freely handed to you. Every seed sown in love is remembered by me. The link is in the description and pinned in the comments, only ever as a gift for the next heart, never as a condition of your own. Now let me give you a word that will hold all of this in place long after this night ends. In the older language the earliest records were written in, there are two different words that almost everyone collapses into one, which is exactly why almost everyone misreads their own life. The first word describes the ordeal itself, the trial, the pressing, the season under weight. It is the storm, the thing you have prayed to be delivered from, and there is nothing wrong with that prayer. It is the oldest prayer there is. But the second word is different. It did not begin as a spiritual word at all. It came from the metal trade. It was what they stamped onto gold or silver after it had been through the fire, after the impurities had risen and been drawn off, and what remained had been examined and confirmed as genuine. That stamp meant, this has been through the fire, and it is real, and you may accept it as payment anywhere, so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, that perishes though refined by fire, may result in praise and glory. That is from 1 Peter, chapter 1, verse 7. Sit inside that for a moment. Most people spend their whole lives praying only to escape the fire, while the stamp of genuine has already been struck into them. The metal does not get consulted. The metal does not receive a letter. The stamp goes on and the gold sits in the tray, still hot, still believing it is being punished. No one ever read the stamp out loud to you. That is the whole injury. Not that you failed, but that there was no ceremony, and a soul that receives no ceremony will invent a verdict to fill the silence, and the verdict a tired person invents is always against themselves. If you are ready to stop reading the storm and start reading the stamp, type, "I read my own stamp." Now let me speak to the word in the title, because I refuse to hand you a flattering lie to make you feel special for a moment. I am not telling you that you are the first human being in history to pass. That would be absurd, and you would be right to stop listening. Many have passed. The record is full of them, and heaven has never had a shortage of the faithful. Here is what is actually true, and it is stranger and better. The test is not a public examination with one seat. It is individual, calibrated to each life, each family, each specific wound. There was no curve. You were not competing against anyone, so the passing was yours alone. And so was the paper, and so is the grade. But here is where the word first belongs. And it is not a small word once you set it in the right place. You are the first in your line. Look back through your family, at the pattern you can name in about 4 seconds. The thing that ran through your parent, and their parent, and further back than anyone kept a record of. The anger passed down like furniture, the leaving. The silence that fell over that house every time something real needed to be said. It came to you. It arrived at your door with your name on it, exactly as it had arrived at theirs, and it fully expected to be handed on because it always had been. And somewhere in that season, without a ceremony, and without a single person to congratulate you, you did not hand it on. You broke it. If you refuse to pass down the very thing that was passed to you, type, "I am the first in my line." Do you understand what that cost you? You had no model. Every person you could have learned it from had already failed at it, which is exactly why the pattern reached you in the first place. You had to invent the response with no example in front of you, while carrying the damage of the people who could not do it. That is the hardest form of any test there is, and you sat it alone, with no teacher, and you passed. Let me tell you about a woman I remember, or rather about her hands. She had lost more than she ever discussed. Losses her own family only learned of after she was gone, delivered flatly by a relative who assumed everyone already knew. She never mentioned them, not once across an entire lifetime. What she did every morning was make bread, not as a hobby and not as a statement. There was flour, and there was a bowl, and there was the same movement of her wrists at the same hour, in a kitchen that grew colder every winter she lived in it. Those who watched her thought it was a small life because they were young and believed largeness was measured in events. But here what was actually happening, that was a person who had been through fire and decided every single morning for decades that the day would still get its bread. No one gave her anything for it. There was no recognition, no title, no moment where someone stood and named what she had done with her life. She simply did it, and the house smelled like it. And 4 generations became who they are because of a woman standing at a counter before dawn with nothing to gain. That is what your quiet mornings are. That is what you have been dismissing as nothing. And I promise you someday someone will remember your ordinary mornings the way that family remembers her hands. And if you did not have such a woman, if there was no one in your history who stood at that counter for you, then hear me, because this is the heavier truth and the greater one. Then you are the one. You are the first hands at the counter. You are the one who had no bread maker to learn from and became one anyway in the cold kitchen, with no recipe and no witness. That is a harder assignment than inheriting the pattern of faithfulness. And it is a greater one because everything that flows down your line from here begins with you. You are not the end of a legacy of strength. You are the beginning of one, and no one will know it started with you. Standing at the counter before dawn, deciding the day would get its bread when every reason said to stay in bed. So do not let anyone, including the accusing voice in your own head at 2 in the morning, tell you that you have bad judgment or a weak faith or a fragile spirit. You are one of the most enduring people in your entire bloodline, and something in you already knows it, which is exactly why the hard things keep getting routed to you. People bring you their crises. The difficult conversation gets handed to you. Someone recently told you, you always know what to say, and you brushed it off because from the inside it did not feel like a gift. It felt like Tuesday. That is the prize, my child. It was installed in you during the exact months you called wasted. I know how many voices are pulling at you, so let this not be the last time my voice reaches you here. Subscribe, and stay close to this house, so that when I release the next word over what you are becoming, it finds you. I am walking you through a whole reading, not a single line, and there is more I need to say to you before it is done. Now let me answer the question underneath everything. Why no announcement ever came? Because it is not neglect, and it is not cruelty. Every human institution you have ever passed through trained you to expect one sequence. You take the test, and then within a set period someone posts the result. And everyone finds out at the same time. School did that, work does that. But I do not run on that sequence. And there is a reason. A result announced immediately produces a very particular kind of person, and it is not the kind of person I was making you into. Think about who you become if the applause arrives on time every time. You become someone who does the decent thing while checking the room for a witness. You become someone whose kindness depends on being seen, and that person is completely useless in the situations that actually require someone, because those situations happen in rooms where there is no witness at all. The delay is what produced the only version of you that can be trusted with what is coming. So the years you spent believing you had been forgotten were not empty years, and they were not silent years. They were the section of the exam that measures what a person does with no feedback whatsoever. And you did not know you were being watched, which is the only reason the measurement is worth anything. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. Those are my words from Matthew chapter 25, verse 21. I said them over your quiet mornings long before you ever thought to look for them. Now let me warn you about the season you are actually in, because it is the part almost no one is told, and it is more dangerous than the ordeal was. When a person survives a long, heavy season, the mind adopts a configuration in order to get through it. Watchfulness, narrowed focus, a permanent readiness for the next blow. That configuration is brilliant, and it kept you alive, and here is the trouble. It does not switch itself off the moment the season ends. It keeps running for months, sometimes years, and while it runs, a person cannot recognize good when it arrives. You have been braced for so long that peace now feels suspicious. Rest feels like something you have not earned. An open door looks, to a mind still scanning for threats, like one more thing that is probably going to hurt. This is the stretch right after you pass, when everything is finally available to you, and you are the least equipped you have ever been to notice it. And I am not going to leave you stuck in it. What that configuration needs is not more striving. It needs to be gently, deliberately set down, and only I can teach a watchful heart that it is finally safe to stop scanning. So begin to let me. When peace comes and you flinch, do not chase the flinch, breathe, and let the peace stay one moment longer than feels comfortable. When rest arrives and guilt rises to send you back to work, hear my voice underneath the guilt saying, the exam is over. You are allowed to put the equipment down. This is not something you fix by force. It is something you unlearn slowly. In my presence, as I retrain a heart that had to stay on guard for far too long to believe, at last, that the war is actually over. And do not be discouraged that you cannot flip that switch overnight, because the survival posture was built over years, and it comes down in layers, not in a single moment. Every time you let a good thing land without bracing, the configuration loosens a little. Every time you receive a kindness without waiting for the catch, the scanning quiets. Every time you rest without earning it first, your spirit learns a little more deeply that the season truly ended. I am patient with this in you, more patient than you have been with yourself. I am not standing over you demanding that you feel healed by Friday. I am walking beside you, month by month, teaching a heart that survived a war how to live in the peace it fought its way into. That is not a failure of faith on your part. It is the last and gentlest section of the exam, and I am grading it the same way I graded all the others, by whether you keep showing up, not by whether you feel it yet. Let me pause one final time simply, as the ministry that brings you these words. Everything you received tonight came to you freely, because someone who once sat in the same silence, certain they had failed, chose to make a way for the next soul to have their paper read. Right now there is another chosen one, exhausted, convinced the lack of a reward means they got it wrong, who needs the exact reading you found tonight. If I ever lead you, you can be the reason it reaches them, sowing a seed of any amount. So this word keeps finding the ones grading themselves in the dark. You would simply be passing forward what was freely handed to you. The link is in the description and pinned for you in the comments. Only ever as a gift, never as a price for your own peace. So let me show you what it looks like when the grade finally gets read. Not a fantasy, an ordinary Tuesday about a year from now. It is a normal morning and something has gone wrong. A message you did not want to receive, a person withdrawing again in the way that used to take you apart entirely. You feel it land. You are not made of stone, and I did not make you to be. There is a drop in your stomach and a heat behind your eyes, and you sit down on the edge of the bed for a minute with the phone face down beside you. That is real, and it happens. And then you get up. Not heroically, you just get up, and you put the water on. And halfway through making it, standing in your kitchen in the same light as always, something odd happens. You notice that you are fine. Not fine in a brave way. Fine in an ordinary way, the way a person is simply fine. And the surprise of it stops you where you stand, because the version of you from years ago would have lost 11 days to that message, and you have lost about 9 minutes. That is the moment the grade gets read. Not a door opening, not a stage, not a name announced in front of anyone. Just you, holding a warm cup in a quiet kitchen, understanding for the first time what you were actually given. And you will laugh a little, on your own, and there will be no one there to see it. And for the first time, that will not bother you at all. That is the day you will finally believe what I am telling you tonight, not because I said it, but because you will have felt the capacity work with your own hands. You will stand in that quiet kitchen and understand that the reward was never going to be a phone call, or a stage, or a crowd. The reward was that morning itself, the 9 minutes instead of the 11 days, the proof in your own body that the fire finished its work and left you real. Nobody will hand you a certificate on that day either. You will not need one. You will have become the certificate. So let me do something with you now, because this needs to reach further down than you're thinking. Wherever you are, let your shoulders drop just an inch, because most of you have been holding them up without knowing. Now unclench your jaw. Now put both hands out in front of you, palms up. This is the paper. Feel the weight of it. Every mark you made on it at 2 in the morning. Every time you went back over the middle of the page looking for the mistake that would explain the silence. You have been holding this since the season ended, and your hands are tired in a way that has nothing to do with your hands. Now turn them over. Let it go. Let it fall to the floor of whatever room you are in, and do not pick it back up. It is not yours to carry anymore. It was marked, and the marking is finished, and the result was entered a long time ago, and it was never your job to keep the exam room open. If you are ready to stop carrying it, type, "I set the paper down." So receive this blessing over your life tonight. I bless the morning after your disaster, the one nobody witnessed, that it would finally be entered into the record where you can see it. I bless your recovery, that you would notice it shrinking and stop calling yourself fragile. I bless the capacity I installed in you during the months you called wasted, that it would find the exact people it was built for. I bless the promises you kept to yourself alone, the weapons you set down unseen, the kindness you spent with no thought of return, that every quiet mark would be counted as the victory it was. I bless the pattern that arrived at your door expecting to be passed on, that it would stop with you and stay stopped. I bless the ones who come after you, who will never know what they were spared. And I bless the tired verdict you invented in the silence, that it would fall to the floor tonight with the paper and never be picked up again. What was struck into you by fire, I have already stamped as genuine, and what I have approved, no accusation of yours can overturn. So carry this with you when you leave, and read it back on the winter mornings when the old verdict returns, because it will. When it tells you that you failed because no reward ever came, remember that the reward was a capacity, and capacities are silent. When it tells you your faith was too thin to count, remember that the standard was never a feeling. It was whether you stood, and you stood. And remember the one thing that matters most, that you are not a person who failed the test. You are a person who passed it, and was simply never told, and tonight you are being told. So stop standing outside a room you already hold the key to. Chosen one, before you go, subscribe and stay close to this house, so the next word I speak over your results finds you. And share this with someone you know who has been quietly certain they failed something, because sending it may be the only way their grade ever gets read out loud. And say this last thing with me, out loud if you can, because your own voice carries further into you than mine ever will, and then leave it below where you and everyone reading can see it. I am not a person who failed the test. I am a person who passed it, and was never told. I am tested and approved through the fire and confirmed as genuine. So type it and mean it. Not I hope so. Not one day, but tonight type I am approved. You passed. I stamped it long ago, and I am not finished with what that pass unlocks. Go in peace, chosen one, you passed.